On this episode, what the... That's weird. It's kind of embarrassing. Hang on just a second. Hello.
Hello, Prepper.
Oh, hey, is this Brian?
No.
No. Must be Jarrell.
No, it's not him either.
Do you have a cold or something? You sound
No,
really bad.
I don't have a cold. Listen, you don't know me, but I know you very well.
Well, if you don't know me, then how could you possibly know me that well?
I hacked the NSA and I got all your info, okay?
Ah, I knew it was on that stupid list.
Okay, well, anyway,
I told him
I
about
want to play a game.
Okay, cool. Look, I like games. What do you want to play? Battleship or Monopoly? Listen, if we play Monopoly, I'm going
No,
to destroy...
not that kind of game. Will you just let me finish?
Oh, I get it. I get it. You're one of those online gamers, right? I get it. Somebody want to do some what? Call of Duty or some Mario Kart? I will kill you at
No,
Mario
not
Kart.
an actual game. A horror scenario that I have set up for you. Will you please just let me finish? Just listen. Everyone's watching and this is getting kind of embarrassing.
A horror scenario. Okay. Go ahead, I guess.
You spent the last several years living a life others only mock. You continue to stock food, water, weapons, despite everyone telling you nothing is going to happen.
Now that's the first thing you've said right all day.
You claim this plane will save your life and theirs one day.
It will.
Today, we find out how true that is.
How's that? This should be good.
At precisely 4 p.m., I'm triggering a survival event in your area. Your actions in the first 60 minutes will determine your survival.
I got some bad news, Slick. It's already past 4 o'clock. Guess I won that one.
What do you mean it's past 4? Oh, for crying out loud. Can't they get anything right? Hang on. Okay, check again.
What? Ha! You turned back time. Weird.
Okay, everything is fixed and lined up perfectly. It's all on you now. Live or die, Prepper. Live or die.
So now we play the game. Look, nothing's happening. What was that? Hey everyone, I'm Scott Hughes and this is episode 14 of the Pondering Prepper. And today we're going to talk about what you should do within the first 60 minutes after an SHTF event happens. The first 60 minutes could very well be the most critical moments following this type of event. During that time, it's crucial for you and whoever you're with to start taking action. So you see, most people believe if they have the best and most expensive survival gear, and they're going to be just fine. However, all that fancy pants and gear isn't going to mean a thing if you don't have a solid plan that you've went over and over several times, so you know it frontwards and backwards. We've talked a lot about what gear and supplies you need in different survival disasters, survival scenarios, so I'm not going to get into that today. But there's basically 5 things or 5 steps to take within the first 60 minutes of an event that are going to better your odds of survival. First is establishing priority and taking action. So when a survival event happens, your adrenaline's going to start pumping really hard. And there are priorities you need to establish to avoid you making mistakes due to an overreactive adrenaline rush, right? So your main priority, at least at first, is going to be your security. You have to make sure you and those around you, or at least the ones you care about, are safe and secure from the immediate threat. Security will take precedence over all other needs at first. We're talking over medical aid, over food, water, shelter, everything. You must secure yourself first. Number 2, identify the problem and establish a scenario. So once you've established your security and you and those around you are not in immediate medical attention, it's time to figure out what's really going on here, what's the main problem or concern. Now I know this probably sounds simple or like common sense, but when you're in the heat of the moment, it may not be as easy as you think. A quick example for how hard it might be to determine the problem. What happens if an EMP strike were to happen? Would you know it was an EMP, or would you think it was just a power outage? You really wouldn't know. The only people that are going to know are a select few government agencies. They're going to be in the know, and they'll be able to detect the problem. So if it's not a grid down event, then hopefully your local news, television, and radio stations can help you get some more information here. Heck, if you're on the internet, then probably Facebook and Twitter are going to be your best sources for things happening at that very moment. Specifically, well, I was going to say in your area, but anywhere really, because people report the news or report whatever's happening pretty much instantly on social media a lot of times before they even call for help. So that could be, as long as you're careful, that could be, I mean careful by, you know, the difference between this is really happening versus this is a bunch of BS. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of that, one thing to keep in mind here, especially with media outlets, the information that they could be getting and giving out can be a little bit sketchy and unreliable at first, as things and information tend to change pretty quickly in the first few minutes or hours of an event. Number 3, should you bug out or hunker down and shelter in place? I know this question is probably going to spark a lot of controversy in itself, and there's going to be opinions, very likely strong opinions, that go both ways here. So you've got your family secured and you figured out what's going on for the most part. Now, is it time to grab your bug out bag and get out of Dodge, or head for the basement, storm shelter, or whatever other place that you would be hunkering down in and just wait this thing out? There's no right or wrong answer here because it's really going to be situational dependent. Just know that the longer you wait to decide, the harder it's going to be to get out if that's what you decide to do. All right, if you're close to the disaster or whatever's happening at the moment, then common sense says you should put as much space or as much distance between you and the disaster as fast as possible. Now, I will say with most situations, you're going to be better off hunkering down and sheltering in place than you would be leaving the area. It's all going to depend on what's happening and what the actual threat is. It comes down to, if you establish the threat to you and your family is extremely high, then it's most likely time to leave. However, you need to consider the situation. How much food, water, and other supplies are you going to need to overcome this event? Are you going to be able to take them with you? It's something, bugging in versus bugging out is something that really has to be considered and thought about a lot even before an event happens. If you've never lived somewhere that isn't abundant in all things needed to survive, then you'll need to quickly consider that before you decide to leave. If you run out of supplies, will you and your family have the ability and skills that are needed to find food, water, and any other supplies needed to survive? The fourth thing you're going to need to do quickly is something that can actually be done prior to the event, and that's practice. You need to be skilled on grabbing your gear and getting to where you need to be. If you practice this over and over again, then you're going to be able to save a ton of time when time is already really limited. You're not going to have time to go check your bug out bag, switch out your winter clothes for warm clothes, rotate your food, blah, blah, blah. No, it's time now to pick it up, and that's all you got, and to go if that's what you decide to do. So your gear needs to be ready to go at a moment's notice. What if you're bugging out and your car breaks down? Are you capable of either fixing your car or carrying your gear to where you're headed? If you're overweight, like I am, how far are you going to be able to make it on foot carrying all that extra gear? Do you have to carry the gear that your family brought too, because maybe they aren't able to carry the gear? Are you willing to leave anything behind? Do you have a bad back, bad knees, bad shoulders? All these things need to be considered before the event so that you're prepared to deal with them after the event. Now, what about gathering everyone together? Do you live in the same city, county, state, country? If everyone's not close, how are you going to get everybody in the same spot? How are you going to bring them all in the same area? Something to think about. So consider those things and practice, because you can be prepared and plan for everything. If you can't execute and execute quickly, none of that's going to matter. Number 5, which is the last thing we're going to talk about today, and that is keeping a low profile. Right off the bat, I can see some of you are going to disagree with me here and saying this isn't a priority in the first hour of a survival event. But I think it is. Let me explain. So keeping a low profile doesn't start after the event. It actually starts, or should start, the minute you decide to become a prepper. You don't want to announce to the neighborhood or all your Facebook friends how much food you have on hand, or show off your gun collections, or brag that to the entire community of how much water you have, right? It's just a bad idea. Now, there's nothing wrong with learning and teaching others. That's my approach here. I learn things and then I share them with you, or on our website or in our magazine, which you should download if you're not reading. I'll put a link to the description. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if I gave you a tour of my place and showed you all my food, my guns, my ammo, my water, and give you the slightest inkling as to where I live, that would just be stupid. That would put me in danger, or at least put me in danger if a survival event happened, right? When a shift event happens, the last thing you want or need is everyone who knows you're a prepper rushing over to your place, knocking on your door, asking for help, looking for a handout, food, water, supplies. What do you got? What are you going to do for me? I know you've got it. Realize, first of all, you're not just going to be able to help them all anyway. You're just not. So if you decided to help some, how are you going to choose who you help? And what are you going to do about the others that are getting ticked off now because they say you helping this guy or this gal, but you're not helping them? I mean, what are you going to do to keep them from ganging up and taking what you have left anyway? Also know that if you decide to bug out, they don't need to know about it. I know this may sound a little cruel, but let's face it, wherever you're going, chances are it's just enough to house you and your family or your survival group, not the entire neighborhood, right? So again, think about your number one priority here, and that's you and your family or whoever you've deemed worthy to be part of your group. Okay, so there you have it. 5 things to do immediately following a survival event, or at least within the first 60 minutes. Once you have them under control, you've had time to slow down, assess your environment and the situation. Then you can start to focus on the other important things that arise from events like this. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And as always, if you know anyone that could use this information, be sure to tag them in the comments or just straight share it with them. And with that, stay always ready, my friends. Take care.